So we're not dealing with a fossilized relic, but a story that gets told. And if you want to move forward in time and begin to tell that, you can go down to Swanzey, just a few miles from where we are. And there is a remarkable, I think of it as a neighborhood of Native American history down around Sawyer's Crossing. Back in the late 1970s, my late friend and colleague Art Whipple discovered the other Paleo-Indian site in Cheshire County on a high bluff overlooking the river. It's excavated by the University of Massachusetts. The old histories say that in the 19th century, Sawyer's Crossing is where kids would go to collect arrowheads, following their fathers as they plowed the fields and picking them out of the furrows. Those histories also say that from time to time, skeletons would be plowed up, and there's no record of what happened to them. The same histories say that as recently as 1890, you could see the earthen berm that surrounded a fort that the Abenaki had built during the French and Indian Wars in the 1700s. And so within a 10-minute walk, you go from the end of the Ice Age into the 18th century. And you have artifacts from every period in between. And then you also have this remarkable thing in the river, the Swanzey fish dam, which is what I spent a lot of time studying, a V-shaped alignment of boulders in the Ashuelot River that would have been used for trapping migratory fish. Now, this is different from what the Paleo-Indian people were doing. When the Paleo folks were here, we don't think there was a lot of fish in these rivers. Okay, so things are changing. And it's also part of a big world, because this is not unique to New Hampshire. Native people all across eastern North America, from Maine all the way down to Alabama, are making these kinds of dams. People are in touch with each other. They're sharing ideas. They're getting inspiration. And we have one of these right up here in Swanzey. That's what it looks like today. If you know where to go, and if there hasn't been a real torrential rainstorm, you can see this very clearly. Would have been used to trap these different kinds of migratory fish. Okay? And we did a nice scaled drawing of it. So it sort of looks like a giant check mark. And again, if the fish are coming upstream, they sort of hit the point and they get shunted over to the bank where they're going to be netted and speared. And we found a variety of artifacts there. The oldest artifacts right next to the dam are these points here that date back about 4,000 years ago. We also have some beautifully decorated pottery that's from right about the time of European contact. And so the archaeology is telling us that the use of this dam begins about 4,000 years ago, and it was still being used when the Europeans got here, which makes sense because the first white settlers in Swanzey called this the Old Indian Dam. They had some insight into it. Okay? We also got 2 radiocarbon dates on fires next to the dam that were probably used for smoking and drying fish. 3,440 plus or minus 80 years before present, 3,600 plus or minus 80. Basically the same date, and they match those artifacts. They say this thing was built almost 4,000 years ago and continues in use until the first Europeans are here. So that's very different from what came before, but it also gives you a sense of the remarkable continuity here.